So in this episode, I'd like to introduce Christian Valk. He's the founder and CEO of Hotelchamp, a tech scale-up that offers smart technology for hotels to boost direct bookings. So before you entered the hotel industry, you were an entrepreneur in the flower business. So wouldn't you agree that's a little bit of a stretch?
Yeah, well, the main driver of the flower business, how you call it, is that we were building e-commerce platforms to sell flowers and other gifts online. And there are a lot of similarities in how you sell gifts, emotional loaded products through the internet as compared to how you offer an hotel night online.
So what would be the main, is it also because you have sort of a warm, fuzzy feeling when you have a bouquet of flowers and when you go to a hotel? Is that emotional connection that you make to the consumer something that sets that apart?
Yeah, I think you're touching on an interesting topic. I think in general it's very interesting to see how consumers behave when it comes to booking a hotel online. And when it comes to the latter, it's quite particular that people do quite extensive research before actually making a booking. And in that customer journey, we try to guide them and help them to offer them a better user experience, obviously with the aim to help hotels with more direct revenue.
So what do hotels like the most about your technology?
Well, hoteliers are craftsmen. They're really good in bringing hospitality within their property.
Mm-hmm.
But they struggle, obviously, with bringing the same hospitality within the online space. And that has to do with, to some extent, lack of knowledge, but also the lack of means where it comes to making the right investments. And at the end of the day, they also miss the data to bring the right experience. And what we can do is we can invest heavily into great technology. We're leveraging our knowledge which we gained from the e-commerce space, and we're using the data which we gather from all the hotels we're working with, making sure that we build state-of-the-art technology which understands their guest, which brings the hospitality on the website, in the booking engine, in the app, the same way as the hotelier tends to give to their guest within the hotel. And it makes them less vulnerable, it makes them less dependent on third parties.
So Hotelchamp launched, what is it, only like 2 years ago maybe, and you now already secured somewhere in the region of 1,500 hotels, paying clients in, well over 50 countries. You raised 5.5 million euros in seed funding, and you're now scaling up to, what is it, 65 employees. So can you tell me a little bit about your strategy?
Yeah, our strategy is all about hypergrowth. And the reason behind that is we want to create impact within this fast industry. There are between 500,000 and 1 million hotels, depending how you see the definition. And if we really want to create a healthy and sustainable hotel industry where hoteliers get a fair chance to drive their own revenue, to be closer to their guests, we can't just work for a couple of hundred hotels. We have to do that for tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands hotels to really create a fair balance between direct bookings and bookings which are gained via third parties like online travel agencies like Booking.com or Expedia.
Yeah. But do you want to crush Booking.com because they're now the market leader, they sort of dictate the market?
I understand your question, but we definitely don't want to crash Booking.com. We're not competing against Booking.com. We're helping hoteliers to do a better job online, giving a great user experience to their guests and bringing them closer to their guests. And at the same time, we're driving their direct revenue, making sure they don't pay endless amounts of money to third parties, but also making sure that hotel guests get the best service there is, hopefully against the best price.
Yeah. You're almost like the archetypical Dutch startup founder, in the sense that you're, I wouldn't say emotionless, but always looking for, the pragmatic solution. I think that's the most valuable word here that we're going to use. How do you try to approach things when it comes to business?
I think two things. One, as the business is scaling, it is way less about me and or my co-founder, and it's way more about the whole team. And within the team, of course, we have also other leaders who are driving big teams. And so I think being the general or the leader.
What kind of leader are you?
Is less something which keeps me awake at night. I think what is the common ground with our form of leadership is that we always try to look what is the best for the company, and it is and should not be about egos or not about what you want to achieve solely or where you can or cannot deliver. It's about what is the best for the company. And once any one of us, including myself, becomes the blocker of the growth we're trying to aim for, then we have to deal with it. So.
Yeah. So I've also learned that you're on the sales side of things, mostly the strategist. So you're scaling rapidly right now, but you only have an office in Amsterdam and Groningen while you're doing business in 50 countries. So can you explain a bit, how do you do a sales strategy internationally with only one local office?
Yeah, so we have a SaaS solution, software as a service, which you can serve from anywhere in the world. So the big question is, do we have to be in face-to-face contact with our customers, either for the sales process or the service process?
Good question. Can you answer that?
In our case, it doesn't need to be. Luckily not. And that is one of the beauties how we can scale fast. We're scaling fast because the product can deliver that, because it is a fast and generic market, and because there is a mutual pain point within the industry. So, and then if you know that, then, and if your ambition is to scale fast, then you have to find a way which go-to-market strategy fits best. And looking at SaaS products like ours, typically you end up either with field sales, which is less scalable, of course.
You have to go knocking on doors everywhere.
Exactly, or you go for lighter touch sales like inside sales model, and this is the playbook we drive.
Okay, so what's inside sales?
Inside sales means you use typically a combination of marketing automation, sales reps, and account executives doing either phone conversations, online demos, in order to engage with customers and to make them understand what the product is about, what the value proposition is about, in order to make them subscribe to the service.
So you raised 5.5 million in seed funding, and in a quite remarkable way, you have somewhere in the region of 45 investors, is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's quite accurate.
That's quite a lot. Normally you would typically maybe have in this phase maybe 5 or 10 investors maximum. So how do you keep them all updated? How do you keep them all satisfied? Do they call you in the middle of the night or each week?
Well, I think it starts with the fact that I'm extremely proud of the group of investors we have who back up both financially as well as in different ways, with either opening the network or bringing the knowledge to us.
What kind of investors are they?
We have people from the hotel industry, hoteliers, either owning or driving a single hotel or having multiples, which is of course, I think, one of the best recognitions, especially with them joining us already in the early stage of that we are really onto something. But also either current or former entrepreneurs from the online industry.
Nalden, right?
With,
Ronald Hans?
Yeah, from
the founder of WeTransfer.
Yeah, who was obviously very good in understanding product and UX, UI. So I'm very proud of that group, and I think.
But they don't call you like each week, each day.
Well, I think there are two things. One, with a big group like that, there's also the understanding that it is less about a daily or a very frequent contact, but we try to give them updates regularly. Every month they receive a report on both a written as well as a KPI-driven update on the business. And at the same time, I think it all starts with the fact that they trust both the team as well as the proposition to do the best in their interest.
But this report is very detailed, right? I mean, you almost have to be, it's almost like a data room for investors, isn't it?
Well, we are a very data-driven company. So
what do you tell them? What's in the email? Revenue?
Obviously.
Leads?
Multiple. So we look at growth from a different perspective, from customers, from with a product angle, around people, talent. We look at things like churn. We look at the financial state of the business. Yeah. What would you like to see if you were an investor in our company?
If I were an investor in your company, I would like to know if you would ever, totally burn my money, or if you already need to raise some more cash. So maybe that's an interesting topic. Are you going to raise a Series A, and if and when is that going to happen?
A company like ours is always funding or financing the hypergrowth is always a topic. Luckily, once you are scaling, multiple options come to the table. So in the early days, you can only either start with your own money or with money of people who are very close by. Once you scale, you can attract money from different sources. Obviously, we used the typical venture road where you start with business angels. But for example, we now also see already banks knocking on our door, asking whether they can work together with us on different kind of debt products. So we're keeping our options open to see what at the end of the day brings the company the furthest.
But of course, with your kind of un-Dutch-like nature in fundraising and the amount of cash already poured into the company, which is not typically normal for a Dutch company in this phase, you would almost assume that international VCs are on the lookout for you. So are you in contact with them, or do you prefer them over Dutch investors?
There doesn't go 1 week or month go by that we don't talk to investors in general. We are at events where investors, especially the ones from the US you were referring to, are very aggressive when it comes to their outbound strategies. They're almost a sales company on their own. So,
yeah, really? Well, how does that, what do they do?
Well, I think they use the same kind of technologies you use to try to understand who is
who's behind
working
the company
with you on this interview, and they are doing the same when it comes to it's all about traction, right? And there are simple ways to see whether a company has traction, whether it's on the number of people you attract, or the number of the amount of money you raise, the media exposure you get, or thought leadership, being recognized in awards, or so yeah. We talk to them.
So, but probably your
but
next round will be from the US, right? I mean, this is the most likely route to take.
No, I believe we're trying to keep the options open to see what is the best for the company. What I like in general is that the venture industry is also becoming very professional, and that you see in our domain, which is obviously SaaS, but also travel, there are a lot of good investors who bring the right knowledge to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it's all about scaling and scaling fast. And there are obviously funds who have seen this many times before.
Mm-hmm.
So, and where they are located, I think in a lot of countries also around us, there are a lot of good VCs. And obviously the density in the US is way higher than it is here.
Yeah. So what's your ambition? Where do you like to be in like 5 years? Would IPO, for instance, be a route you like to take?
Well, it's our aim to make this company big. And we do know that we are not in this for the short run. So yes, we have a 5-year scope, but most likely we can have this interview within 5 years, and most likely within 10 years.
Everything is different, yeah.
No, but within 10 years again. So, and I hope we're still sitting in the same chairs or in the same position. Yeah, but this is it's a fast industry, and it's a company which is really on a sweet spot in the market where there is a huge pain right now, and yeah, in order to make that big, everything is on the table. Yeah, and the ambitions are high. So.